Hello. Yeah. Am I audible? Yeah. So there's been a lot of discussion about what transformation means and what exactly transformation means. It reminds me of a joke on a. It's a famous joke on economists. Apparently, one day, wife of an economist told him, "Honey, I love you," and the economist, being an economist, replied saying, "Relative to what?" So I think that's very simple yet a fundamental question. Sometimes it throws us into uncomfortable zones. Similarly, here the word transformation has been defined and redefined in several ways. Since a lot of discussion has been around education, one of the primary arguments against this budget regarding education is that this budget has not increased money for education substantially, and hence it's not transformatory. So when someone is making that argument that there is no increase in allocation for money and hence it's not transformatory, then I think we should pause at that moment and think whether increasing money, does it actually lead to outcomes. If you actually look at the data and evidence from 2005 to 2006 till in the past decade, the allocations for education have increased 4 to 5 times, or some say even 6 times. So the budget has increased 6 times, but at the same time there is no substantial increase in outcomes of children. So if that is the state where even if you increase the budget 6 times and there is no increase in outcomes, how can you again go and demand for the same thing, asking for an increase in budget? So coming to the second point, Rohan, I think redefined the word transformation in another way, which I too agree. He termed transformation as something fundamentally different in the way you spend money. Till now, what was the way the money was being spent The union government budget, they used to just give money to states and nothing used to happen. But in this budget, I don't know if people have observed, there's a very specific clause which says that from this year, the union government is going to do an outcome review of all the states for which the money is given. So through this measure, I think it's a good starting point. Through this, it's actually building some amount of accountability for all the thousands of crores of money that is being given to states. And surprising, and very second important clause is again within the same para, which is it sets sunset clause for all the programs, all the social programs that are being sponsored by the government. If you actually think about it, think in a rational manner, any social program is designed to address the conditions that are existing at this point of time. After 10 years, after 15 years, what happens? The condition changes and the context changes, but the program still remains. So it ends up being ineffective. And we actually rarely go back and rethink about this program, whether we should withdraw program or not. And the moment government says we are going to withdraw some social program, there will be an opposition from the other side saying, why are you withdrawing social programs? And this is a sort of vicious loop in which we are all caught in. And there is a huge pile of ineffective social programs that is building up. In order to address that, this budget has brought in a clause called sunset clause, which says, look, for any new program that the government is going to present, we are going to put a sunset clause. Through this, it is building in measures which will help governments to go and rethink about the programs that they are going to design. And the second argument against this has been, there's a lot of debate has been around there is no increase in outcomes, we should focus on primary education, and budget is not focusing on that. We should fundamentally understand that is budget meant to address the issue of primary education, the problems in primary education. For that we need to understand what are the problems in primary education. For any person who has visited schools or any government school know that the problem is there is huge teacher absenteeism. And who is responsible and who is in the best position to address this problem? The local governments and state government. And one of the other problems is teachers don't get appropriate training. And who is in a better position to train teachers and take responsibility of that? Local governments and state governments. If you list down all the problems that are in the primary schools, in the primary government schools, and see who is in the best position to address those, it will end up being either local governments or state governments. If that is the context, and then unnecessarily demanding the union government to respond to those challenges is shifting the accountability from state government to the central government, central and inherently advocating for a centralized system, which is an ineffective system. And hence, I think whenever we are asking the budget to address the critical constraints in primary education, we should be careful about who is responsible for this and who should we expect these things from. And finally, when all these arguments are made,
So last 30 seconds.
yeah. Finally, when all these arguments are made, for example, the sunset clause and the outcome-based review of social programs, then the counter argument is that, oh, this is just a policy direction, or this is just a starting, but there is no fine print. That reminds me of a joke of the famous joke, and again on MBAs. Apparently, once upon a time, there was an MBA guy who went to propose a girl, and he went with a spreadsheet of what he'll do for the next 50 years of life, detailed each year, each month wise. And you all well know what would have happened, what would have been the result been. So there are times when you need to go into detail. There are times when you need not. There are times when you need to just communicate the message. And the budget is a event where you just communicate a change in policy direction, and you don't necessarily go into the details.
Thank you so much, Karthik sir.